This is Chapter 10, The End of the Road, Part 4, from a story called The Time-Dilated Generations, by Esteban Gallardo. When she entered the command control room, everything was calm, routine, expecting the order to bring Daniel home. They had no idea what was coming next. Ellie stepped forward, her voice firm, unwavering. First, I want to confirm that the mission has been a success. A ripple of relief passed through the room. I know that everyone is expecting to bring the Endeavour back safely, but we are proceeding with another test. Second, Daniel is fully aware of what we're about to do. This is his personal request, and I fully agree with it. She paused, scanning the faces before her. Then, with absolute certainty, she dropped the bombshell. We are going to take the Endeavour beyond 99% of light speed. The room fell dead silent. Everyone in the control center had known, in theory, that the ship was capable of exceeding the 99% threshold, but no one had seriously considered it a real possibility. Until now. Ellie continued, her voice unwavering. I understand your concerns, she said, acknowledging the unease that had gripped the room. I can assure you that the ship is built to withstand this, but we will be pushing all safety systems to their absolute limits. I want each and every one of you to remain hyper-vigilant. The moment you detect any deviation, any fluctuation in perimeters, you report it to me immediately. Her expression was severe, her tone making it clear. This was happening, and there would be no room for error. Slowly, one by one, the engineers, the physicists, and the navigators nodded in acknowledgement. They could see it in her eyes. This was not a test Ellie took lightly. This was real. Ellie took a deep breath. Open a channel. I want to send a message to Endeavour. The communications officer nodded, establishing the connection. Ellie spoke first, her tone initially cold, professional. Command control to Endeavour. The new parameters of the mission have been accepted. We will proceed with the protocol to test beyond 99% light speed. A pause. Then her voice softened, the weight of their shared history pressing against her chest. I understand you, and I forgive you. The silence in the control room was absolute. I would have hoped that you would have trusted me before this, but I also know that you were right. I wouldn't have let you. She exhaled, grounding herself. Whatever happens now, I want you to know that I fully support you, and I always will. I love you, Daniel. I always will. Now, let's do this so I can have a few words with you when you get back, cowboy. Do you copy? 3 minutes of agonizing silence followed as they waited for Daniel's response. Then, finally, yes, I copy. Daniel's voice, thick with emotion. Thank you, my love. Ellie straightened, shifting back into her role as mission commander. Daniel, here's what we're going to do. Her voice was firm, methodical. We will increase speed to 99.9% of light speed, the maximum stable velocity reached with our drone test. The acceleration process will take 10 hours. Due to the extreme time dilation, you will confirm system status by responding only with yes or no. Sit in the cockpit, wear your helmet, and inject the G-force resistance compound. Once you confirm, we will proceed. 10 minutes later, Daniel's single-word response arrived. Yes. Ellie gave the final order. Commence acceleration. The Endeavour surged forward, inching closer toward the forbidden frontier of physics. At these speeds, every centesimal of acceleration required extreme caution. Each time velocity increased by another fraction of a percent, the team spent nearly an hour verifying system stability, monitoring Daniel's vitals, and scanning for any irregularities. And then, the world outside began to distort. For the first time, the theoretical predictions about near light speed travel were not just equations on paper. The ship's cameras began capturing tunnel vision distortions, the stars elongating into thin, blurred streaks, as if reality itself were bending to the ship's will. The visuals were haunting, unreal, like peering into space beyond human comprehension. Even the most seasoned scientists in the control room felt a primal fear creep into their bones. They were venturing into a forbidden domain reserved only for light itself. After 10 painstaking hours, they reached 99.9% light speed. The time dilation was now colossal. For every second that passed for Daniel aboard the Endeavour, 22 seconds passed for those at the moon's command control center. It was surreal. From their perspective, Daniel seemed to be moving in slow motion, frozen in time, a ghost suspended between past and future. The implications were staggering. This speed would revolutionize interstellar travel. At 99.9% light speed, a journey that once required thousands of years could now be completed in mere centuries. The impossible was now within human grasp. The stars were no longer out of reach. The galaxy was theirs. Ellie was moments away from initiating the deceleration protocol when the first warning flashed across the control room screens. One of the lead spaceship sensors had detected a minor asteroid directly in Endeavour's path. This was not unusual. In fact, the automated course correction protocol had already successfully maneuvered past multiple obstacles throughout the mission. 6 advanced sensors, acting as the ship's vanguard, had ensured a clear path, a safeguard that had worked flawlessly. Until now, Ellie barely had time to process the situation before it happened. The Endeavour did not respond properly to the correction protocol. The course adjustments lagged, barely recognizing the commands. Instantaneous quantum communication ensured that the ship's computers reacted immediately, but the physical realm obeyed a different set of rules. At 99.9% light speed, time dilation was at its most extreme. The ship's helium-3 reactor, bound by laws of physics, was experiencing time at a fraction of real speed. Its nuclear fusion reaction, responsible for providing the necessary energy output for course correction, was running far too slow to react in time. Ellie's heart pounded. The window for course correction was closing fast, and then the first sensor exploded. It wasn't a direct impact. The sensor drone had merely passed too close to the asteroid. But at this velocity, the gravitational interaction between the two objects generated a force so massive, so powerful, that the drone instantly disintegrated, erupting in a blast unlike anything humans had ever witnessed before. Thousands of shrapnel-like fragments were hurled across the void, and now they were all directly in the Endeavour's path. Half an hour later, the second sensor exploded, colliding with a growing storm of high-velocity debris, adding even more deadly fragments to the maelstrom ahead. Ellie's stomach dropped. This was it. Daniel's fate was sealed. In 2 hours, the Endeavour would collide with a lethal cloud of debris, moving at a fraction under the speed of light. For Daniel, trapped in the merciless grip of time dilation, it would happen in just over 5 minutes. Everyone in the control room knew it. They had simulated every possible escape scenario, every model, every equation, every last desperate attempt. Nothing worked. Ellie stood motionless, the room waiting for her orders. But there were none to give. For the first time, Ellie couldn't change the outcome. She could not perform a miracle this time. And she knew it. Ellie turned, silently exiting the control room. Her steps felt heavy, like she was walking through molten steel. She entered the conference room, the same place where she had learned the truth about Daniel's condition just hours earlier. And now she had to say goodbye. There was no time for grief. No time to surrender to the overwhelming pain clawing at her insides. She sat down. Her hands were shaking as she started the recording. "Daniel, by now you also know what is happening." Her voice broke, and she squeezed her eyes shut, trying to force herself to breathe. She continued, even as tears blurred her vision. "The time dilation has become our worst enemy. The ship's reaction time is too slow to trigger the course correction protocol in time." Her breathing hitched, her throat tightening. "I want to be angry at you, but I can't. I know I could never have stopped you. I know what this meant to you." She wiped at her face, but the tears wouldn't stop. "I even know that you're probably at peace, knowing that I will make sure this will never happen again." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I forgive you, Daniel. Don't ever doubt that. I would have granted your wish anyway, because I love you too much to deny it." She took a shaky breath, then gave him her final words. "I love you, my space cowboy, and I always will." 30 agonizing minutes later, a final transmission arrived. Daniel's voice was steady, but she could hear the emotion beneath it. "Thank you for giving me this last opportunity." A small pause. "You've lifted that weight from me. Now I'm ready to leave in peace." Another pause. "I love you, Ellie, and I always will." Ellie watched his final words over and over, unable to move from her seat, because this was all she had left. This was the last time she would ever hear his voice. When she finally stepped out of the room, the final sensor drone exploded. Now the Endeavour was moving blind, surrounded by a hurricane of relativistic debris, each fragment a bullet moving just under a light speed. The collision was inevitable. The control room remained silent, their screens filled with data feeds, collecting every possible piece of information, learning, because this moment, this monumental loss, was both a triumph and a tragedy. They had reached the threshold of possibility, and they had discovered the line that they must never cross. Maybe it would take longer to reach the first star system, but now they knew exactly how to get there, safely. Time dragged on, stretching into eternity as they waited. But time does not wait. The Endeavour finally reached the end of its journey, and then the universe erupted. The impact was unlike anything humanity had ever conceived. The energy release was so apocalyptic, so staggering, that had it occurred closer to Neptune or Uranus, it might have destabilized the orbits of entire planets. And then came the light, a burst of energy so brilliant, so impossibly bright, that it was visible to the naked eye from Earth during the day. And that was a catastrophic problem. That was Chapter 10, The End of the Road, Part 4, from a story called The Time-Dilated Generations, by Esteban Gallardo. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope to see you again next time.